What if I told you the Bible as we know it might be missing essential details about creation, the patriarchs, and even God's laws? The Book of Jubilees, a text preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, claims to fill these gaps with hidden stories and profound insights into divine purpose. Interestingly, this ancient book was excluded from much of the Christian world. Why? In this exploration, we'll dive into the mysterious Book of Jubilees, also called Little Genesis, and uncover why its 50 chapters were left out of the mainstream Christian Bible. This fascinating text offers lost details about Genesis, shedding light on cosmic truths, angelic interactions, heavenly time, and hidden commandments passed to humanity. But it doesn't stop there. The Book of Jubilees boldly asserts that the world's calendar is flawed, claiming time was divinely structured in a way few recognize today. So, why did the early church reject this text? What secrets were deemed too controversial to share? Let's uncover the answers. The Book of Jubilees begins with a retelling of the creation story familiar from Genesis, but it ventures far beyond what most Bibles include. According to this ancient text, God didn't just create life, He established the very framework of time itself, aligning it perfectly with His divine order. This marks the introduction of sacred time, a concept deeply embedded in the cosmos. Unlike the traditional calendar most of us follow, Jubilees presents a precise solar calendar, meticulously overseen by heavenly angels. This calendar governs not just the cycles of the universe but also humanity's spiritual alignment with God's will. It's not merely about tracking days, it's about living in harmony with divine intention. The calendar described in Jubilees comprises 364 days, divided into 4 seasons of exactly 91 days each. This structure ensures that sacred observances, like the Sabbath and festivals, always fall on their correct dates. A flawless system, yet one that the rest of the world seems to have abandoned or forgotten. In Genesis, the story begins with the creation of the earth, but Jubilees expands the narrative to an even grander scale. According to the text, angels were created on the first day of creation, preceding the formation of the world itself. These angels were not merely witnesses, they played a vital role in governing the universe, including the regulation of time and seasons. Jubilees reveals that each angel was entrusted with specific duties by God, ensuring that every cosmic cycle and divine decree operates in perfect synchronization. This intricate system, rooted in divine wisdom, offers a glimpse into a world where time is more than a measure, it's a sacred rhythm ordained by the Creator. Natural phenomena, such as the movements of celestial bodies and the work of angels as messengers and guardians of God's laws, play a central role in the Book of Jubilees. The idea of angels managing the heavens appears in other ancient texts, but Jubilees places special emphasis on their role in maintaining cosmic order. These angelic beings ensure that the sun, moon, and stars follow their divinely appointed courses. As written in Jubilees 2:9, God ordained the sun to move in alignment with the divisions of the seasons. These angels are not merely passive observers, they actively govern the fabric of time itself. According to Jubilees, when humanity strays from God's sacred time, chaos ensues, disrupting the harmony that angels are tasked with upholding. This theme resonates throughout the text, underscoring the importance of aligning with divine timing. One of the most debated aspects of the Book of Jubilees is its claim that the world should adhere to a solar calendar rather than the lunar calendar adopted by many ancient cultures, including the Israelites. Jubilees asserts that the solar calendar is the only accurate way to measure time because it perfectly reflects God's divine order. The text details a solar year comprising 364 days, divided into 52 flawless weeks. Each season, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, spans exactly 13 weeks, or 91 days. This precise structure ensures that the Sabbath and other sacred festivals are observed on their proper dates annually. Interestingly, this solar calendar bears a striking resemblance to the Ethiopian calendar, still in use today by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Its alignment with Jubilees suggests a continuity of sacred timekeeping that connects ancient traditions to modern practice. The Ethiopian year is structured into 13 months, 12 months of 30 days each, with an additional month called Pagum consisting of 5 or 6 days to account for the remaining days of the solar year. Could it be that the Ethiopian calendar is one of the rare modern systems that preserves the sacred time described in the Book of Jubilees? In contrast, the lunar calendar, widely adopted by ancient cultures, including the Israelites, is portrayed in Jubilees as a distortion of divine order. The lunar calendar's irregularity causes months and festivals to drift over time, creating inconsistency in sacred observances. Jubilees strongly caution against this deviation, emphasizing the spiritual consequences of abandoning the solar calendar. As stated in Jubilees 6:36-37, there will be those who will observe the moon, but they will disrupt the seasons and turn holy days into profane ones. This misalignment, the text argues, leads not only to confusion but to a form of rebellion against God's intended design. For the Book of Jubilees, adhering to the lunar calendar isn't a mere oversight, it's a direct act of disobedience to divine will, undermining the harmony and order established by God. The solar calendar, by contrast, is presented as the perfect reflection of God's cosmic plan, ensuring that humanity remains aligned with sacred time. The Book of Jubilees suggests that by returning to the solar calendar, humanity can realign itself with the divine rhythms established at the creation of the world. It reaffirms the 6-day creation narrative found in Genesis but expands upon it, offering deeper insights into the significance of the Sabbath. According to Jubilees, God didn't merely rest on the 7th day, He sanctified it as a divine institution, an eternal law meant for both humans and angels. The Sabbath is portrayed as the cornerstone of time, a sacred day set apart from the beginning of creation, intended to be observed forever. This concept of the Sabbath as a cosmic principle is central to Jubilees. It not only governs the weekly cycle but also connects to the broader framework of time, including the Jubilee cycles of 49 years. These cycles are designed to restore harmony with God's order, offering a time of rest, release, and renewal for the land, humanity, and even the angelic realm. As Jubilees 2:21 declares, He sanctified the 7th day and blessed it for all time as a sign of holiness for all His works. The emphasis on the Sabbath as an eternal law highlights how Jubilees go beyond merely retelling the Genesis account. It reveals the deeper meaning behind the cycles of time that regulate all creation, underscoring the interconnectedness of divine order and human observance. The text portrays the Sabbath not just as a day of rest but as a pivotal element in maintaining the sacred balance of the universe. The Book of Jubilees affirms that Adam was created on the 6th day, as described in Genesis, but adds depth to his story. It explains that God gave Adam specific commandments from the very beginning, which included observing the Sabbath, adhering to purity laws, and following rules concerning marriage and worship. These commandments, delivered through angels, were part of a covenant between God and humanity, intended for Adam and all his descendants. Jubilees also recounts a moment in the 2nd week of creation when, as part of God's instructions, angels brew. While Genesis speaks of God's direct interaction with Adam, Jubilees introduces angelic beings as intermediaries who taught Adam how to live according to divine law. Among these were the angels of the presence, tasked with ensuring that Adam and Eve understood the principles of holiness, sacrifice, and moral conduct. Jubilees also recounts a moment in the 2nd week of creation when, as part of God's instructions, angels brought all the animals before Adam in an orderly sequence. As detailed in Jubilees 3, the creatures of the earth, sea, and sky were presented day by day, symbolizing God's meticulous design and the connection between humanity and creation. This angelic guidance underscores that God's laws are not merely human constructs but reflections of a heavenly order. Adam was taught that these laws were eternal and binding, mirroring the same commandments observed by angels in the divine realm. This teaching reinforced the idea that humanity's obedience to God's covenant aligns with the cosmic structure established by the Creator. Could it be that God's laws, delivered by angels, were passed to humanity long before Moses received the 10 Commandments? What insights might we gain from these ancient commandments? If you're curious about the laws given to Adam and how they compare to those of Moses, let us know. Should we explore these early divine instructions in greater depth? After the fall of Adam and Eve, the Book of Jubilees provides new details about the lives of their children, particularly Cain and Abel. While Genesis recounts Cain's murder of Abel, Jubilees delves further into the aftermath. Cain's act is portrayed as the first major violation of God's law, a sin with profound spiritual consequences for all of humanity. Despite Cain's exile, Jubilees highlights the continuation of a righteous lineage through Seth, Adam's third son. Seth is depicted as a figure of virtue who adheres to the laws passed down by the angels, ensuring the preservation of God's covenant. This righteous line eventually leads to Noah, whose story takes on even greater significance in Jubilees. While Genesis focuses on Noah's survival of the flood, Jubilees expands on the narrative, emphasizing the covenant God establishes with him afterward, a covenant centered on purity, righteousness, and obedience to divine laws. Jubilees also provides a deeper look into the state of the world before the flood, particularly the corruption brought about by the Nephilim. These beings, the offspring of fallen angels and human women, are briefly mentioned in Genesis 6 verses 1-4, but Jubilees offers additional context. It describes how the Nephilim's presence contributed to the earth's moral decay and widespread lawlessness, ultimately leading God to cleanse the world through the flood. As Jubilees recounts, all flesh corrupted its way, men, cattle, beasts, birds, and all that walked the earth. This expanded narrative not only sheds light on the severity of the earth's corruption but also reinforces the central theme of Jubilees, the critical importance of maintaining God's laws to preserve harmony and righteousness in creation. The Book of Jubilees describes a world spiraling into chaos as moral decay consumed humanity. This corruption wasn't solely due to human sin, it was exacerbated by the influence of fallen angels, who introduced forbidden knowledge and disrupted the natural order. The result was catastrophic, as Jubilees 5 verse 12 notes, they began to devour each other. In response to this widespread corruption, God acted decisively, sending the flood to cleanse the earth. However, Noah and his family were spared, chosen for their righteousness. After the flood, God not only promised never to flood the earth again but also established a new covenant with Noah. This covenant included laws of purity and sacrifice, designed to help humanity maintain holiness and avoid repeating the sins that led to destruction. One significant detail in Jubilees is that Noah was commanded to observe the Sabbath and follow the same laws of sacrifice and purity initially given to Adam. These divine instructions emphasized the need for obedience to prevent further judgment. This covenant symbolized a fresh start for humanity, with the Sabbath and sacrificial laws serving as reminders of the sacred order God intended. The laws of sacrifice, which would later be formally codified in the Mosaic Law, were already part of Noah's practices. Jubilees highlights that Noah was given specific guidance on how to present burnt offerings to God, reflecting continuity in the divine expectation of holiness and worship. This covenant with Noah reinforced the importance of living in alignment with God's laws as a means of preserving the world's spiritual and moral integrity. In Genesis 12, we meet Abraham when God calls him to leave his homeland and journey to Canaan. However, the Book of Jubilees provides a deeper look into Abraham's early life, revealing a narrative not found in Genesis. According to Jubilees, Abraham was raised in a household entrenched in idolatry, as his father, Terah, worshipped false gods. Despite this, the young Abraham rejected the pagan practices surrounding him and chose to follow the one true God. In a pivotal moment, Abraham questioned his father, saying, "What is this idol you worship?" Witnessing its lifeless nature, Abraham destroyed the idols in his father's house, burning them publicly and fleeing into the wilderness. Unlike Genesis, which emphasizes Abraham's obedience to God's call, Jubilees portrays him as a courageous reformer, standing against the idolatry of his time. This act of defiance foreshadows Abraham's role as the patriarch of a people devoted to God, rejecting paganism and adhering to divine laws. One of the key distinctions between Genesis and Jubilees lies in the depiction of Abraham's relationship with God's laws. While Genesis primarily highlights the covenant of circumcision in Genesis 17, Jubilees presents Abraham as someone who observed divine commandments long before the time of Moses. It describes him as keeping the Sabbath, offering sacrifices, and following other laws typically associated with the Mosaic covenant. This portrayal of Abraham aligns him with God's eternal covenant and emphasizes his role in upholding divine order even in a time of widespread idolatry. In the Book of Jubilees, the laws observed by Abraham were not innovations from Moses' time but were part of an eternal divine order passed down from the angels to humanity, beginning with Adam. Abraham received these commandments directly from angels and was expected to uphold them as part of his covenant with God. As Jubilees 12 verse 25 notes, he was taught by the angels concerning the things written in the tablets of heaven. Unlike the Genesis account, which focuses on Abraham's personal faith journey, Jubilees presents him as a central figure in a grand cosmic plan. His actions are guided by divine beings, and the laws he follows are rooted in a heavenly order governing both celestial and earthly realms. These laws include the Sabbath, purity regulations, and moral principles that were later codified during Moses' time. One of the pivotal moments in Abraham's story is the covenant of circumcision, described in Genesis 17 as a sign of the covenant between Abraham and God. Jubilees, however, expands on this, portraying circumcision not just as a symbolic act but as part of an eternal law inscribed on the heavenly tablets. According to Jubilees, circumcision was not unique to Abraham's descendants but was a divine ordinance established since creation. This eternal law, inscribed on the heavenly tablets, underscores its universal significance. This law is for all generations forever, and no day shall be skipped out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance. In Jubilees, circumcision represents more than a covenantal sign. It is a sacred act that aligns humanity with God's timeless order, connecting earthly practices to heavenly decrees. In Genesis 17, the focus is on Abraham's obedience to God's command to circumcise himself and his household. However, in Jubilees, this act is framed as part of a larger divine order. Circumcision is not merely a physical symbol, it aligns individuals with the cosmic laws that govern the universe. This deepens the significance of the covenant, showing that Abraham's obedience was in response to a divinely ordained law, part of the broader cosmic design.